we can get into the meat and potatoes of this, which is hearing from EJAF and from World Animal Protection about how they're using Salesforce, how they're using Amp Impact, and what kind of learnings we've gotten from that. And I believe, Tom, you're up first from EJAF.
Thanks so much, Zach. And I just want to also put a quick shout out to Hasti, who works in the Mumbai office as well. Has been so helpful in developing our system. And just picking up from where you left off there, Zach, about Amp Impact being a sort of approachable system. I mean, I've been working on our system alongside my main job here, which is in the programmatic side, and doesn't really have too much overlap with systems level work, but I think that's just shows sort of how easy it was to get to grips with Amp Impact from a non-tech person like myself, and also Vera being so supportive through that process to make things sort of clear. So I think it's, you know, for people out there who aren't so tech savvy like me, it's a logical system and very user friendly. I'm just going to speak for a couple of minutes about what we do and a bit about our history and more about our journey from where we sort of started with managing our data and our impact to the present day where Joe's going to take over. So a little bit about us. We started in 1992. We have offices in the US and the UK. And I think, Joe, we've got about 25 people. That's across our grants, fundraising, comms, IT, and our finance team. And yeah, we've since we started, we've given out over 3,000 grants to projects in 93 countries worldwide. So a really global reach. And we're one of the leading philanthropic grant makers for HIV. So we work across North and South America, Africa, Asia, Europe. And yeah, our work really focuses on key communities. And by that, we mean people who use drugs. We mean LGBTQ plus communities, young people and sex workers. So a real focus on where we see the greatest burden of HIV, and also when looking at the bigger sort of wider HIV sector, it's communities that are being really left behind. So the types of work that we fund really responds to the fact that whilst we've seen a reduction in the number of people dying of AIDS-related illnesses, over 60% of all new infections occur within these communities and their sexual partners. So our grants really support local national organizations, and they often provide HIV testing, linkage to treatment and care programs. And we've also pivoted to supporting more advocacy and policy related initiatives, which challenge the legal and the structural barriers that criminalize communities. So what we're really trying to do here is really focus on where there are really key gaps for key communities and people living with HIV. And since 2015, we've supported almost 10 million people with services and provided HIV testing to over 4 million people. And we're also, as I said, we're a fundraising organization as well. And since we began, we've raised over $500 million for HIV globally. That goes straight back into our programs and straight out the door to communities worldwide. We've just embarked on a new 5-year strategy for the whole organization that followed the integration of our US and our UK organizations, which, although with the same name, were separate with separate strategies. So we're now one global organization, and I'll just talk a bit about where we sort of started and came from on this journey. So we started to roll out the Amp Impact system early this year, but obviously last year during COVID, we worked with Vera to develop that. So we really wanted to evolve our processes here at the foundation. And with that new strategy that we brought in, we wanted a system to sort of help us on that journey. Really at the early days of the foundation, and this is before my time, I started here about 8 years ago, our database really consisted of Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, which grantees would fill out, email back to us, we'd save them. So, you know, pretty analog compared to what we have today, but that was the system that we had. As we sort of developed our strategy here as well, we wanted to turn that into a system. So we went to, I don't know why, but there was a reason behind this, I'm sure. We worked with a system called Lawbase, which was a platform that legal practices organizations use to store casework, I guess. But we sort of modified it to be a sort of grant management system. And then thankfully, we teamed up with Vera Solutions back in 2011. And as Zach was saying, as things were growing on their side, we worked with Vera to develop a platform within Salesforce, a sort of custom built platform, which really mirrored where we wanted to go as an organization. We wanted to collect key data points from our programs and compare these across portfolios. So where we have a portfolio for people who use drugs or a portfolio for sex workers, they're all doing testing. How do we sort of compare that? How do we compare data points and information across regions? We really wanted to improve the programs that we fund, but also to share that with the grantees so they could have a good sense of what they were doing. We also wanted really a more user-friendly, intuitive platform, one that could also manage payments, deadlines, and be a sort of store of attachments and reports. So this was based on the standard Salesforce system. We were staying in classic mode for a bit too long, which we probably should have moved off that. So that was our choice. And I think a key part of what we were trying to do through this system was that we wanted to link up our sort of higher level organizational mission and come up with ways that all of our programs, no matter where they were or who they were working with, had a key set of indicators which would ladder up to that. So we could really tell from the data that we were collecting how we were progressing towards our top level goals as an organization. So we came up with this idea of higher level goals that every organization would report back on. So that was the number of people tested for HIV, the number of people linked to HIV treatment programs, and the number of people retained in treatment programs. So this was all, our big sort of organizational view was no more AIDS deaths and key communities, not being left behind in the AIDS response. So by tracking those, we could see how we were progressing to this top level goal. So this system really did help us with that. It was also using FormStack as well, which was fine. It was a workaround. It was a fix. There were still some issues with that. I think importantly as well, there was no place for grantees to log in. There's no sort of portal, a place they could call their own, where they could sort of manage their project from. And as I said, as our strategy evolved and as our grant making has become more targeted and a lot more nuanced as well, we fund service programs where we are tracking data such as the number of people tested for HIV, but we're also now tracking more qualitative information and milestone related targets, for example, when we're working in advocacy and policy spheres. So we really wanted to take this to the next level, and that's where Amp Impact really came in. So again, we worked with Vera to take our strategy and see what Amp Impact could do for us there, and it really has opened up our grant making. It's given us so much more flexibility and freedom in terms of what is possible. One thing I really like as a programs person, and for anybody on the call who's a bit like me, where the grant cycle and the grant management process, can be a bit stressful sometimes. We created, for example, a place where we could create a call for proposals online and store all the information about that there. That will be then mirrored in a portal for grantees. So grantees now, through Amp Impact, they have this online place, a place that they can log in, they can see all their grant information, all their upcoming payments, all their data. So the data is owned by them as much as it is by us. So it's really been a massive boost for us and the way we can manage that grant cycle, especially being a small team working remotely. And it's just really helped us simplify. It's a very much an ongoing piece, but yeah, I'm going to now pass over to Joe, who's going to pick up from there about how we're using it right now.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, so Tom's talked about our need for a new solution, and so I'll just talk about where we are now and the reason we're using this new solution. And as Tom says, one of the key factors of this new solution is the grantees portal, and it's been a great tool for us in terms of creating a strengthening collaborative effort with our grantees. And not only that, it's the ease of use for our users has been incredible. And as Tom says, it's an easy place for them to feel connected to the grants and for us to feel connected to the grantees as well. And so it's providing with much more of a partnership. And then we can also be closer in terms of admin and management of the grants through this portal. But yeah, the real reason for us to move to this new solution was so that we could have this wider picture that Tom alluded to, and talking about the overall strategy for the organization. We needed something that was more in line with what we're going to be doing going forward with this new 5-year plan. We needed a place that we can have portfolio management and impact management and grant and fund management all in one place, and the ability to track these KPIs that we have, but also look at them in a much more granular level, which is across the organization, which is where we have integrated our solution with Power BI. And this has been great for us, and going forward, it'll be even better that we are able to track our progress and really analyze our data across the organization, from our fundraising department through to our grants department and our finance department, as they all interlink into Power BI. And the new solution that we've got with Amp Impact has really helped us be a bit more sophisticated in our analysis and our reporting, as I've said, and it allows us to have one centralized area for all of our analysis across the organization. And more so than that, it gives us an instant update across every department for what it is we need to look at. So it's more transparent, and we can customize our reporting across everything. But one of the major projects of this, using the new solution with Amp Impact, as Zach mentioned previously, was our finance integration. So we have managed to fully integrate our finance system, which is Business Central, into Amp Impact so that we can track payments. And this all then leads into our integration with Power BI. So we can report across finance and grants all into one place. And we've done the same for our fundraising system and Business Central as well. So we can actually report across the entire organization, from where our donors' money is coming from to where it's actually being used globally, which is a great piece of data to display for internal purposes, for grantees, for grant managers, but also for board members and sharing with the wider public as well, if need be. But this project was obviously a major project for us, and it came with a lot of difficulties along the way, as every project does. One of the great things about Salesforce and Amp Impact, as Zach mentioned, was the fact that it's such a flexible system, and you can change anything that you wish very easily. But with that comes problems that you need to make sure that you have validations and checks in place for all these sorts of things. So some of our benefits and reflections and learnings in this slide is talking about having clear internal business processes before starting any major system work, and making sure that your system, it doesn't dictate what it is you're looking to achieve as your overall goal, because we're looking at this bigger picture of being able to analyze across the organization, display that in a way that is sensible and clear to everybody across the organization. So you have to ensure that you have your internal business processes refined. But one of the great things of the system as well is the efficiency that we have in this. And this comes down to reporting, but also for grantee ease of use through the portal, things like that. That's been super helpful for everything. And as I say, running into Power BI, we get instant updates on everything like that. But one of the key factors, I guess, in everything is, as it's popped up there, is security. With this flexible system, you need to ensure, if you're integrating across systems, that you have your validations in check so that we're not getting incorrect data. Because as we know, bad data in means bad data out. So we want to ensure that that's as limited as possible. And that's what happens when you're changing business processes. One of the major impacts, I guess, during the project, and one of the things that we found took more time and had a bit of a bigger impact than we suspected, was obviously COVID-19. The ability to have a meeting face-to-face was obviously removed completely, which brought us challenges, of course, but we've managed to persevere, thankfully, through that. And we've gone through it. But that is one of the big things, is that it's taken us longer than we expected. And there are many points during this process that we have found that real world issues pop up and have a major impact on your project plan that you probably would never have thought about. And I don't think there are issues that nobody can really think about until they're in play. So yeah, that is generally some of the biggest challenges that we've had going through this project. One interesting issue that's popped up there is our need for a fund object, which I believe we managed to persuade Vera very kindly to fast forward their roadmap due to our need for it, which was founded by the integration with our finance system. As I say, working with Vera has been super flexible, very efficient. They're a great team, and on the Salesforce system, it really was simple enough for us to add that in, obviously with a lot of tweaking and testing that went into that. But that is the flexibility of the system really allowed for that. And as I say, the real world issues, there'll always be things that you can never foresee going forward in a project. You'll think you've thought of everything, but then there'll be something that pops up 5 years after you've gone live on your new system. But I would just say not to worry about that and just continue as the plan goes along, and hope you have a good team like Vera to mitigate any damages that can come up from that.